Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining our webinar, the monthly customer webinar for Evolve Mechanical. Today, we are going to be covering some of the new features and updates from the 6.4 release. We sent out an email on Tuesday to our customer base letting people know that 6.4 is now available. And if you haven't accessed it yet, you can go to evolvemep.com/downloads, and there you can get access to the new update. If at any time during today's presentation, if you have a question, please feel free to use the Q&A function, and we will answer all of your questions at the end. If we run out of time, we will make sure to follow up with you after the webinar. And we are recording this webinar today. At the end, we'll make sure to forward the recording to all registrants. And I'd like to quickly introduce you to the people who will be leading this call today. We have Alex Siebert, Amber Zinke, Andrew Somerville, Adam Heon, and Jason Earle. These folks are your product experts and customer success specialists here at Evolve, and they'll be the one walking you through the update and answering all of your questions today. And so with that, I am going to get things over to Adam Heon to get us started. Adam, what do you have prepared for our audience today?
Great, thanks, Marina. Yeah, let me share my screen here and we'll jump right into it. I see there's a question on the workstation setting, so I'll answer that uh, in a second. But as Marina said, we released the 6.4 this week. So what I'm going to do is cover through the release notes, go through some of the new and improved features, and then I'm going to cover a couple of support topics, or I'll cover a topic, and then I'll pass it over to Jason. He's going to cover a couple of other topics as well. So let's just get right into it. So I'm going to skip the Foresight drawing register stuff. That's what Jason will cover. I'll start right with this hiding of the panel. So this actually ties into this question on the workstation settings. So with the update, your settings panel is now in resources, and we moved a button again. The reason we moved the button under resources is because we have the ability to turn off panels. And one of those panels is utilities, which is where the settings was found. So we had to move it so you didn't disable the settings on yourself. So the workstation settings is now under resources. And when you go to workstation settings, you'll have a panel here, which allows you to select which panels you want to hide. So you can just go through, click the panels. And once you close out, everything comes out, gets hidden. So this is just going to help with cleaning up the ribbon, especially with a lot of people don't use every single tool that we have. So you can just kind of clean it up and remove some of the buttons that you don't use. How do I get help in 6.4? So Julie, if you have specific questions, feel free to post them here. Otherwise, the best thing to do is shoot us a support email. If you have other needs, if you want us to set up a call. So just reach out to us through our support channel. That'd be good. How do I vary assembly colors for spool maps while using Colorizer? Okay, we'll keep some of these at the end, and as long as we have time, I'll cover some of those. But I'll just keep my eye on the questions as they come in. All right, so that's the hiding of the panels, pretty straightforward there. Delete spool, again, nothing major here. It's just another delete spool function. It was never actually there because everyone would just use disassemble function. It did the same exact thing, but we just added the button so that you have access to that same function through the ribbon. This next one, quick access for selection config. So this is kind of a hidden configuration that we've had. And so this enhancement is just to kind of bring light or people's attention to this option. So what it's referring to is this setting for selection configuration. This allows you to do, if you're not familiar with it, is modify the default element filter for different features. So for example, if I were to create a spool, I give it some name, I can do some window selection and I just grab a whole bunch of things. Let's say I never want to spool these family hangers. What I can do with my selection config is modify that so that conduit fittings, if I find my spooling, there's my define spool feature. So I'll modify the element filter where I'll remove conduit fittings. So now when I hit define spool and I go window select, you'll see my conduit fitting hangers are not selected. So this just gives you full flexibility to kind of filter out elements you may never want to select for a different feature. So what this enhancement does is when you're in a dialog, you'll see this little arrow icon. You'll notice that this one is black. This black color is indicating that the default has been modified. So if I click on it, you can come back to my define spool. I'll reset it, hit OK, and you'll see the icon is now white. So we just added this button to any of the dialogues where it pertains to. So when I click on here, you'll see there's here's all the features that you can use this on. Probably most common ones are going to be your packaging spooling, quick dimension tools maybe, but pretty much if it makes sense, we put it as an option. All right. So let's see, next item, continuous single hanger placement. That's just when you're doing a place hanger function and you're running a single hanger, the feature stays active while you're placing. So I can click and add hangers every time I click. So that's what that enhancement does. So if you're just placing one, you can just hit escape and end the command. Renumber by continuous run. So that would be, let's see. Yeah, I'll run it on here. Okay, so in the renumber command, there's going to be another option down here called renumber by continuous run. Essentially, it allows you to run kind of through a series of connected parts. So if I wanted to start here, you'll see that now my selection is limited to what's in series of that connection here. So I can select one of these as my end elements. So if I select somewhere around here, say OK, it's going to number in the order and direction that I have clicked. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so on. So it allows you just a number in sequential order based on that connected path that you click. All right, so this one I think is one of my favorites, the compare data utility. So under the utilities, there's a new utility here called compare data. This is it's a window that can remain open while you're in Revit. And what this allows you to do is make selections of elements. And as you make those, if you make 2 or more selections, they will come in and display all the parameter data of those elements and also give you it'll kind of summarize the selection with distinct values. So you can say show only differences, so you can see only the differences between the 2 selections, or I can just say see everything. There is a element limit to this, so keep in mind, this is active model being run as this dynamically populates. So if I did a whole giant selection, this thing's going to time out, because otherwise we're going to have to query all those elements and it could really be a serious performance issue. So just note that if you do need to compare more than 20, you can increase that, but that's probably a high number. But this is going to be, it's a useful tool, obviously, to do comparisons between elements. This actually helped us troubleshoot some of the common numbering issues that have come up, where elements are actually different based on some obscure parameter data, which causes it to not get recognized. But just the general utility, good for just kind of scrubbing through Revit elements. But feel free to check that one out. I find it very helpful. User defined grid formatting. Which one is this? I think this is the conditional formatting here, if I remember correctly. So what we have, whoops. Let's do let's see what this gives me. So now within the, I think when you right click on a header here, you can go to conditional formatting and you can set various conditions here. Now, the thing about this, let's just say, let's do conditional formatting, highlight cells equal to 0 and do red fill. There we go. Okay. I think I did less than 1 foot. So I can set some conditional formats, greater than, equal to, contains, things like that. What you can do here is actually save your grid state, which will preserve those conditional formats. So as you toggle through different profiles or something like that, I'm doing this in Find Elements. This is going to be in all of our grids. But if you end up resetting your views in a tool like this, you can always come back to your grid state and call it back so that it saves it. So if I did save as and said error check, if I went to a different profile, obviously I'm going to lose all my formatting. Say if I came back to this or even used a similar profile, I could recall my grid state and that can come in. So it's just that's kind of the approach you would take if you want to save your formatting. The last thing here that's listed is the quick tool tooltip videos. Pretty straightforward here, but as you hover over our quick tools, oh, I'm in the wrong version. As you hover over quick tools, some of these will come in. Yeah, oh yeah, the alignment tool we did not do. But now you'll see little videos very similar to like the Revit tooltips you would see. Try to give some visuals of what these tools do. So just note those are there as well. So that kind of brings us to a few of the enhancements we threw in here. I'll start with the reports. Won't mean much to anybody, but this has given us some abilities to capture ancillary data and to do some other reporting functions. Also, we enabled a label function. So there's built-in default label templates, brother labels or things like that, I think. So those templates are available and are working. But I will show on the sample model here, I didn't actually test this, but I think we have our ancillary report. Let's pull this over. let's see, important categories, by container, display ancillaries. We'll do the type, let's do a break, submit. So here we're capturing ancillary data. I know a few customers have reached out to us on some of these reports. So we have been taking improvements on these default reports that we make. We are also putting out some more help documentation on some commonly asked functions on how to customize these reports as well. So it seems a lot of people are very interested in these, but just know this sample model that I'm using with this report is not yet posted on our site, but it will be shortly. And just know that for those who don't know where the files are saved, whoops. Let's see if I can get to it from here. Within the admin module, and you go to company properties, there's a link to download these sample files. There is a date now that's posted with these. So at least it's an indicator of when we last updated the files. So you can see, obviously, these are almost 2 months old. So once the new ones are posted, I'll probably send out an in-app notification that the files are posted, but you'll see a new date here when that happens. And then you'll have access to these reports in this sample model as well. All right. Let's see, a couple things I'll just talk about. I don't have examples or anything. The macro automation, this was just something small there. I think we're just dealing with project macros where we just opened it so it can be applied to application macros as well. The PowerShell enhancements, we did create a global function. So if you're not familiar with PowerShell, that's okay, but just note that not here. Let me go into parameter sync. And then we go to, where am I looking for? What am I looking for? Additional context. Nope, I'm in the wrong Revit version. That's why I don't see it. I have another one open on the old version so I can show something. Here we go. So there's a global functions piece to PowerShell. So there are some customers who are really diving in and utilizing PowerShell on our tools, which can be very useful. And at times, if you're reusing various functions, this allows you to kind of create a global functions in your project so that you don't have to copy and paste the same code over and over again. So kind of a more technical enhancement there, but for those that are utilizing that function, it comes in handy. The data profiles, this was really to support the Fab ancillary data, but also note that in the data profile, there's now a column called special /ITM values. So this is where you'll see your Fab ancillary part identifiers here, but we also included some other things that typically you would have had to use PowerShell to get, like element ID or project information, your XYZ coordinates of elements. These are all things that previously you would have to write a script in order to get, but now we've opened those up so you can just call on them. That's going to greatly improve performance. Actually, it'll help even on our reports because some of that information did require PowerShell previously, where it doesn't now. Last one is within the point manager. This is right on the same vein as layers, but now we basically have two options, description and layer, that you can customize how those point parameters are created. These are going to be for calculated points on ITM hangers. So how the description or layer comes in is dynamic if you want it to be. And just note that you can concatenate additional parameters just by clicking on them and bringing them in. So that's just a custom option there. So that pretty much covers the new features and the enhancements. You can certainly go through. I guess I'll kind of run through some of these changes that we made. They're worth, I guess, just noting. And then below here are some of the bug fixes. Most of these have been customer reported issues from various models that have occurred. So please take a look through some of those as well. But on some of the changes that are worth mentioning on the locations feature, we are doing the location by volume of elements to improve kind of the accuracy of when elements are in two locations and how they get divided up. Renaming spool sheets, that was an issue where I think corresponding filters or schedules or views were not being renamed properly. Let's see. Merging parts during a work sharing sync. So that was a fix that has shown up a few times. That's worth noting. And this will lead me into the renumbering function. So a common support ticket that's come up over the last couple months with 6.2 was a bug that came out with renumbering. So I wanted to show what the bug is. I'll show what the fix is for 6.2, and then I'll show that it's fixed in 6.4. But basically what was occurring, you'll see here, I'm running, this should be 6.2. Yeah, okay. So if I'm running the renumber tool and I'm using common numbering, and I grab the parts, and this is just obviously two copied sets of elements. So I'm not getting my common numbering, which is what the support issue is constantly coming up as. So the fix for this for 6.2 is adding some constant value here. So, I mean, just type anything in here, and when you rerun the command, it will properly identify these. And then you'll see in 6.4, I think I copied over the same scenario. And I set up a similar rule. Oops, I don't want to do that. Yeah, so I'm no value here, and this should just renumber properly. Yeah. And then you'll see these two are different. And if you wanted to, you could use the compare data tool, say show only differences, and I can see my X and item number is different, which is interesting because they're coming up with two different numbers. So there's obviously some other difference here. It's probably I don't know what that is. I have to look at it. But anyway, not to get sidetracked, the issue at hand, the renumbering tool. So hopefully that clarifies that if anybody else was seeing it. And again, if you update to 6.4, that will be fixed. All right, I think that's what I wanted to cover, and I'm going to pass it over to Jason, and he can show a couple of things as well. It's all you, Jason. And you're on mute.
Thanks, Adam. All right, so we're going to get started here with talking about the QR codes and the integration with Foresight that enables the QR codes and what those are for. And then I'll finish with kind of talking about one of the common problems that we see with setting up spool, package, or location templates, and why sometimes those don't come out looking the way we expect. So the first thing here with the QR codes, just to give a little context about the QR code system and why we felt it was worth doing, is whenever you're in the field or somebody's in the field and they've got a drawing, there's no real way to know if that's the latest version of the drawing. So maybe they're working off old drawings. It's a common problem. So kind of what we came up with was a system for when you publish a drawing from Revit to Foresight, if you enable the feature, we'll add a QR code to that drawing. That QR code is specific to that version of that drawing. And when you publish a new version of the drawing to Foresight, we'll add a new QR code, et cetera, et cetera. So now you've got these drawings in Foresight, and you may print them off and hand them to your field personnel. Those drawings that they have, they can now scan with their phone. They don't need to be, they don't need to have an account with Foresight. They don't need to log into anything. They can simply scan the QR code, and the website will tell them, hey, this drawing is out of date, or this drawing is up to date. And we'll actually look at that here in a minute. So let's kind of look at how that's done. So to export drawings to Foresight, I'm going to come up to the export utility. And I've got a destination already set up here for Foresight. And in my location settings here, I've got my folder here for my job on Foresight. And then this is the new thing we've added here is include QR code on sheets. And so you can choose the location, which corner of the sheet you want the QR code, and then you can choose an offset from the corner so that you can choose where you want it to be placed. You can also adjust the image size. So if 1 inch, if you want something bigger or smaller, you could change that. So once you've enabled this for your Foresight destination, you select some sheets. You see in our preview that they're going to go. We can run the export. And while that runs, those will publish, and then we'll get those situated in the project. But this is what it actually comes out looking like. So I've got some drawings here from this project that I've attached to a task. And looking in here, looking at the drawing, there's a QR code here on this drawing. And you can actually scan this QR code and it will tell you that the drawing is out of date. And so that this is actually the actually an old drawing. So this is just a drawing that I made out of date and uploaded for the purposes of the demo that we're doing here today. The other feature of this QR code within Foresight is to support a kind of a hybrid paper digital workflow. So it is not uncommon today that in fab shops, the foreman and maybe some other shop floor manager has a computer that they work on. However, all the people on the shop floor may not have screens and computers that they work off of. They may be working off paper drawings. So if you're using Foresight to store if you're publishing your drawings to Foresight and you're printing those drawings off, those drawings have these QR codes. The members working on the floor can actually use their phone if they've got the Foresight app. So we also released a Foresight app for Android and iOS very recently. They can scan this QR code from the Foresight app. Now, in this case, they have to log into Foresight and they're a member of shop. They're able to scan this QR code, and from the app, it will actually tell them what task that sheet is associated with. So they don't need to go in here and go to the work cell queue and search through the work cell queue. Probably they have their work cell, but they don't, it saves them a few steps, right? So they just take out their phone, open the app, scan the QR code on the sheet, and it opens up the task, or it shows a list of tasks that worksheet or that sheet has been mapped to. So from that point, they can begin their work. They're spending less time, messing with phones or computers. They're spending more time, hopefully fabricating. That's the goal. All right, so that is QR codes from Revit into Foresight and that integration. So we got one question here related to that. So what about if the drawings live in Procore? So what you can actually do here is with the export utility, you could publish to multiple locations. So when you're ready to publish this, you can publish it to a local location. And if that local location is like the Procore connector or whatever they call it, that publishes the drawing to Procore, you can actually just publish it to both locations. So the drawing in Procore won't have the QR code, only the one in Foresight will. However, I'll say that there's more coming on that. We have our product 360 Sync that we're working on integrating with the drawing register and with Foresight. That would allow you to sync the drawings from Foresight to Procore, in which case then those drawings that you sync from the drawing register will appear in Procore. All right, so that covers the QR code system and integration into Revit. Let's talk a little bit about title block templates. So I have here a project with, in this case, it's a spool, but this is applicable to packages, spools, and the locations tool. So all three of those are used for generating sheets. And the way we generate sheets is based off your title block template. Now, looking at this one, this sheet, it came in great. I've got 2 pieces of duct here. I've got a bill of materials here. Everything looks good. So this is the goal. But a common problem is that the views don't come in looking right. The schedules don't come in the way you would expect. So let's kind of show what that looks like and how to correct that. So what's actually going wrong here that happens a lot is the view template here is incorrect. So it may be misspelled. It may just be a view template that's not in the project. Whoops, double clicked on that one. Change this to something else. Get that to update. Okay, so that parameter is good. This one's good. Okay, so I've changed these essentially to break them to show you kind of what the issue is. So I'll load that back into my project and I'm going to regenerate this sheet. So I'm going to delete and regenerate. I'll keep the same title block. And okay, I got an error because I had a family open. So let's try that again. All right, let's run that again. Delete and regenerate. Okay. So on first glance, this might look okay. Now, what you won't see is that this title block or this view template didn't exist for this view. So what's going to get defaulted to, the detail level will be medium, the visual style will be hidden line, and any graphics overrides or anything associated with a view template will not get applied. There's no view template for this view. So that would be why your views may look, you know, basic or not the way you expect them to. On schedules, it's a bit more jarring of what you see. So instead of having my nicely formatted schedule with all my fields that I'm expecting to see, this is what it ends up looking like. You kind of get this itemized list where it says family and type and you have a count. The width looks all messed up. Not ideal. So the issue again here is looking into the template is the view template does not exist in my project. And these are case sensitive. So I can fix these by putting that. And I can load this back into the project. All right, and then I can regenerate this. So let's talk for a minute just about those view templates, just to make sure everybody understands what that view template is and where it's coming from. So now that I'm in my project, if I go up to the view tab and I hit manage view templates, these are my view templates for the job or for the Revit project. I have to have a view template assigned to those view windows for those views and schedules to kind of take on the properties of the view template. So is there a way to set the column width in the reports? So when you say the reports, are you talking about the reports up top in here in utilities, or are you talking about the schedule that's on the spool sheet? The answer to both is yes. So, okay, so let's talk about the widths, because I was going to go over this anyway. So let's talk about the widths of the schedules on the spool sheets. So these widths are not arbitrary. They're defined by the view template. The way to set or change the column width in these schedules is to come over to a schedule. Now, if you're using our project template, or if you've loaded the schedules from our project template into your project, you may have some schedules already in here. But let's say for the purposes of this that you don't. So let's take one that I've already got that I'm using. So in this case, I've got one here, fabrication spool duct bond. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to create a new schedule, the schedule on the spool sheet. Okay, good. All right, so I'm going to make, first I'm going to check my schedule. Let's check our view template. So, okay, so I've got in here, I'm going to check my schedule. Okay, so it's a single category schedule. So it's MEP fabrication ductwork. So I'm going to make a schedule of the category MEP fabrication ductwork. And I'll even, let's do this. I'm going to give it the name. This is best practice here. This is what I always do. Duct bomb. I'm going to copy the name from here to make sure I don't misspell it. I'm going to make a new schedule. Come down to MEP fabrication ductwork. And I'm going to give it the name. At that point, I just need to get something on the schedule to generate the schedule. Now that I've got this schedule created, I'm going to apply template properties. I'm going to apply this template that I want to use. We'll apply the template properties, and it shows me kind of what this schedule would show. However, it shows for the whole job. It's not limiting it to a spool. So these are the widths of my columns. These are the widths that will come in on the spool sheet. So I'm going to regenerate this again real quick to just show the effect of changing the column widths. Come up here. We'll regenerate. Okay, so you can see here, I've got my widths. Now, the way I change the widths is I come into my schedule. I change the width in the schedule. So just for exaggeration, I'm going to expand this really far. Then what I'm going to do, and this is why, well, part of the reason I named this the same name as the view template. I'm going to click twice slowly in here. So I'm going to copy the name of the schedule, and then I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to hit create view template from view. And then I'm going to give it the name of the view template. Revit will warn me that I'm overwriting an existing view template. That's good. That's what I want. It means I actually got the right view template. So I hit yes. It brings this up. I'm going to hit OK to save the changes. And at this point, I'm going to regenerate that spool sheet. and we'll see that the width hopefully has changed. All right, so I regenerate this. Generate. Okay, so you can see now the width is changed on the spool sheet. So that's how you adjust the column widths on the spool sheet. So just kind of to summarize, the way you do it is go into a schedule that has the view template properties, change the width of the view template, or change the width of the column in the schedule, and then save, create a view template from that view. And that's how you do it. Now, as far as your spool template that you've got here, so this thing has a width. And so what I can actually do here is I can measure the width by drawing a detail line. I'll take that and I'll copy that. So this is the width of my schedule. This isn't what I would, I would never actually have it this wide, but this is the width of it. So I can, as I'm setting up my spool templates, I can do some testing here and I can get my spool template really dialed in so that people aren't having to move around schedules as much. So I've taken the width that my schedule comes out. I copied that width. I'm going to delete that detail line. And then I'm going to go into, I'm double clicking. It's not going in. I've already got it open. So I'm going to come over in here. I'm going to go to that schedule view window and I'm going to take and paste that width in here. So now I know, the height isn't super important. The height is going to be whatever the schedule determines, but the width is determined by that view template that we created. So what I can do now on my spool sheet, I know the true width of that schedule. So I can actually say, okay, well, I need to put this over here. I don't have room up here for another schedule. I'll put this one down here beneath it, and we'll line that up. So that's really everything there is to controlling and adjusting the column widths on spool templates, package templates, and location templates. All right, so that covers everything I've got about QR codes and title block templates. I'm going to pass it back over to Adam if you want to kind of answer a couple of the questions that we've got.
Yep. So that first question that was asked about the spool maps using Colorizer. Let me share my screen. Okay, so in the sample model that's posted, I believe these rules are in the one that's posted now, but I'll show you how this is set up as an example. So what I have here are a series of 5 rules and then a clear rule. And so what the rule essentially does is it's basically just looking for assemblies where the type ends with 1 or 6. I'm doing 1 or 6 so that I only have to choose 5 colors and then they just repeat as opposed to coming up with 1 through 0 where I need 10 different colors. So each one of these are basically the same, just alternating the numbers. Then what you have at the bottom here is a clear spool rule, which basically just clears out the elements when it's unspooled. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and enable these. And as an example, actually, let me just double check what my view is. Let me just cover the rule, the entire rule here, just in case anyone's not familiar with it. So the element filter that we looked at is obviously defining what elements I'm going to hit. The next one, which I skipped over, is the view filter. And this is telling me which views to invoke the coloring rule. So currently this is set to my view name contains spool. And then we have the color that you want to use. A common thing that gets missed here is solid fill. Make sure that you specify a fill for your pattern. And then the next options are whether or not this is a clear rule. If it is, colors don't apply. Then you have your option to when to execute the rule. And then you have a few other options here. Just to know, I won't get into detail with these, but this has to do with kind of how Revit processes elements and when you're dragging and stretching and redrawing things. Sometimes elements don't get colored properly. So essentially, there's no harm in just checking these. If they're not checked and something's not working right, check them, try again, probably will work. But anyway, that's the rule altogether. So one thing to draw attention to again is the view filter here. So what you'll see in my current floor plan, it doesn't contain the word spool. So if I took these two elements and spooled them together and hit finish, you'll see there's no coloring that happens. But if I rename this, I may already have a level 1, I'll call it level 1A. I'll rename this and add the word spool to it. And I'll go and I'll spool this. And this. You'll see the colors get colored as I'm spooling. So now the rule was activated because my view name contained the word spool. So obviously it doesn't retroactively color everything. So if you wanted to update it, you could just select it, refresh the current view. And I would cover that. And hopefully that answers your question. Let me see. All right. So we have a few more minutes left. Feel free to type in any additional questions. I don't think I had anything else specifically to cover. So I'll give it a few minutes for any other questions to come in. Quick Dimension is a beta tool right now. I guess I can kind of show it. So you can kind of quickly get dimensions. It's got a few different options, but we didn't get to release that yet, but that'll be out with a future update. So basically it's meant to dimension various straight systems, pipe, conduit, duct, tray, things like that. All right. Well, I think that will cover us for this month. Unless anybody else has anything, I think we can wrap it up.
Thank you so much, Adam, Jason, and the rest of the team for walking us through all those 6.4 updates. Please reach out to us at support@evolvemep.com if you have further questions and you want to reach out to this group of people. You can also just go to the Evolve website and access, there is a form we have on there that you can fill out to get in touch with the support team. So thank you so much, everybody. Please make sure you're following us on LinkedIn and socials to keep up with all of our other webinars and trainings that we have to offer. And we'll be following up with the recording in an email. Thank you so much, everyone, and have an excellent day.